Bandwidth for this webcast is brought to you by Sceneworks at sceneworksinc.com.
Hey, welcome to another exciting and informative episode of Ask an Expert here at Amusement Expo, part of the FEC network. Great show for you today, and on today's show we're going to talk about arcade games, insurance and waiver forms, laser tag battery life, as well as some food service. So good things planned. But before we get to that, just a gentle reminder of how things work here on the show. Below the video there are 3 buttons. The blue button, as always, takes you to our show sponsor page. Stop by and give those guys a look. The green feedback button in the middle, if you've got some feedback for us on how we can improve the show or what you'd like to see, or maybe any other comments. And then the ask a question button directly below me here. If you've got a question you'd like our experts to answer, click that. It'll open up your mail client, and bada bing, bada boom, we'll get you two on the show. So before we get into the rest of the show, let's take a quick second to shout out to our sponsors here. Sceneworks, purveyors of themed construction. And again, if you haven't taken a look at their website, stop by and see what they've got on the go. If you're looking for some themed construction for outdoor, indoor, miniature golf, themed facades and props, as well as huge big pirate ships, as I mentioned before, and lots of really neat kind of things they're doing out there, old school, traditional construction, good stuff. And again, that's sceneworksinc.com. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to this part of the show, the Ask an Expert. There you go. Creative little 3D piece I did. You like that? Well, I didn't do it, but she did. First up on today's show is a question from Connor in Texas, who writes, we're completing our business plan and trying to make some realistic space planning for our game room. We'd like to have 25 to 30 arcade-style games, including the ticket games. Is there a rule of thumb for space needed per game? Well, Connor, that's a really good question, and we've got David Young with BMIgaming.com on the phone.
Hi, David, and thanks for being a part of Ask an Expert. You have some feedback for Connor?
Yes, and that was actually a good question, Connor. Your question was, is there a rule of thumb for the space needed for arcade games? And the simple answer is yes, but the slightly more complex answer is that it will depend on the games in question and the space that's being utilized for them. To start with, if you have a lot of space compared to the amount of games you're planning to purchase, of course you'll have more flexibility in spacing the games to arrive at the most eye-pleasing and traffic-friendly layout as possible. And a good distributor should be willing to provide you with expert assistance in this area in designing your floor plan for a small fee, or in our case, free of charge. So, but if we're talking about the standard box-size shaped floor plan, and you're going to utilize the space fully, the following rules of thumb are a good starting point in arcade space planning. For video arcade games, at least 4 feet of free space in the front of the game. But many types of these games can be put flush together, both back to back and side to side, if required, as in a traditional 80s video arcade. For basketball machines, we suggest at least 6 feet of clearance in the front of the game. And if you're running basketball machines in traditional banks of 2 to 4 games, those games can be pushed together with no side-to-side clearance. For redemption games, they do come in a lot of different sizes, but if you want to take the standard size coin or ticket redemption game, we suggest 3 to 4 feet of front clearance and 1 to 3 feet of side clearance in most cases. Now, again, if you're getting multiple games of the same title, some cases they can be pushed together. For sports games like air hockey, we would say at least 4 feet clearance on the ends and 2 to 3 feet on the sides. But like in the other games, if multiple tables are being purchased, they can be set flush side to side if required. And the last category of popular games for some locations are pool tables. And pool tables are a little bit different because they require at least 6 feet of clearance on all sides, with 8 feet being ideal. And for larger arcade games, and there are also some games now that are 6-player coin games, There are some 6-player redemption games. Generally speaking, those are a eye-catching sort of cabinet, and you want to give them as much space as possible so they actually catch eyes. So in the case of a rotary or a round game, we would suggest, again, 5 to 9 feet clearance circumference around the entire game.
Well, there you go, Connor. David Young with BMIgaming.com. Dave, thanks for being a part of the show and for your time. And you can find all of today's guests. Below me there's a little table with company names, addresses, and a web link direct to their website. I'd encourage you to swing by and see how else those folks can help you. Next question we have is from Julie in Indiana, and she has a question regarding insurance and waiver forms. I was wondering if you could tell me about waiver forms and if that is the best or only way to protect yourself from litigation. Can you make your guests sign one before they enter your center, and do they work to protect us? Are there insurance companies that specialize in the amusement business? Well, that's a great question, Julie, and we have Larry Cosillo on the phone with Cosillo Insurance, and I think Larry's got some feedback for you.
Hey, Larry, thanks for being a part of the show. You got a response here to the insurance question.
Yes, the waivers are kind of interesting depending on what state you're in the United States. Some states do not allow you to waive the rights of a minor, but most states will accept the waivers. Usually the terminology is now waiver and risk. So basically what you're looking at, most of the states will allow a waiver with a risk of assumption signed as part of the defense. It's not your only defense. Most of the insurance carriers will require that is a part of the insurance, that they have to have a waiver signed depending on the activity. Indoor inflatable centers, it's standard. If they're doing any type of skating, go-karts, usually they're going to be signing some sort of waiver. And it's going to basically allow them to be advised that it's a dangerous activity that they're going to be partaking in. So do you make them sign one before they come in? Definitely anybody that walks in, have them signed, even spectators. That way it's going to give you some additional protection.
Right.
And the second part of your question, are there insurance companies that specialize in the amusement business? Yes, there are. There's about 10 of them out there. We represent probably 6 of them.
Cool. Well, appreciate the answer, Larry, and your time. Thanks for being a part of the show.
Not a problem. Thanks, Derek.
All right, Larry Cosillo with Cosillo Insurance. And where else are you going to find that kind of great advice and expert wisdom but here at Amusement Expo on the Ask an Expert webcast? Thanks for being a part of the show, Larry. Next, we have a question from Kenny in Georgia regarding food service. We are in startup phase and are a little wondering about providing food service for our FEC guests, as neither of us has any food service experience. I'm wondering if you can offer some guidance on the pros and cons to subcontract the service or keeping that process in-house. Kenny, that's a really great question, and as we work with students in our own Startup Academy program, we go over food service a lot, and it's paramount in providing an overall great guest experience. So to address that question for you is Frank Saniski on the phone with Amusement Entertainment Management.
Hi, Frank. How are you today?
Hey, Derek. I'm fine.
Excellent. I understand you got an answer for us here regarding some food service.
Oh, of course. Yeah, food's a very important part. General rule of thumb is that the food percentage in a family entertainment center can somehow even get as high as 33% of total revenue. The average food per capita is approximately $4 to $5, which is pretty much what you can grab a snack for just about anywhere in the country. And it's best to keep the food service in-house because there's a lot of discounting that occurs for everything, including birthday parties, group packages, as well as value packages for individuals and families. A tenant or someone that you bring in-house to run your food service may not want to participate in these discount packages. They kind of like to get paid retail, and your job is just to bring the people in. As far as food costs go, they generally run about 30%. If you're really good, you can cut that down. Some of the better companies are running at 26, 27%. So that leaves a lot of room for profits. There are some companies that sell food products and kitchen equipment, and they have great training programs for those people that don't have experience in food. it's